throughout their career, and I'm so excited to have each one of you here on the stage. Now, let's go ahead and start right to my right. Kanhai, please introduce yourself.
Kanhai Gandhi, KNS Architects Mumbai, practicing architect and an artist at this moment. Come here to speak about upcycling and innovation.
And I'm Aishwarya Nair. I'm a third generation hotelier, but recently turned into a stand-up comedian and just having fun with my life and building more impact for the world.
Hi, I'm Payal. Jain. I'm a fashion designer by career, but sustainability is something which is very close to my heart. It's part of my practice, it's what I do. I also like to believe I'm a textile artist because I make textiles out of scrap textiles. I am very invested in women. So Stuti, thanks for having me here. She's always talking about women-driven initiatives, and in India, that's very, very key. Very happy to be here on this panel.
Hi, I'm Jussara. I am also a fashion designer, and I guess what distinguishes me from so many fashion designers is that I am plastic-free and zero waste. So I'm here to talk a little bit about my journey.
Thank you so much, and thanks for those introductions. As you can see, we have a very dynamic group with us today. And the good thing is we're having this conversation in this room. And the reason I say that is because this room is the room living ecosystem. Great panel today and this afternoon. And what I want to do is give our panelists a moment each to introduce themselves to you. They're going to go through and tell you a little bit in about 60 seconds or less about why they're here today, what they've been doing throughout their career, and I'm so excited to have each one of you here on the stage. Now, let's go ahead and start right to my right. Kanhai, please introduce yourself.
Kanhai Gandhi, KNS Architects Mumbai, practicing architect and an artist at this moment. Come here to speak about upcycling and innovations.
And I'm Aishwarya Nair. I'm a third generation hotelier, but recently turned into a stand-up comedian and just having fun with my life and building more impact really in the world.
Hi, I'm Payal. Jain. I'm a fashion designer by career, but sustainability is something which is very close to my heart. It's part of my practice, it's what I do. I also like to believe I'm a textile artist because I make sculptures out of scrap textile. I am very invested in women. So Stuti, thanks for having me here. She's always talking about women-driven initiatives, and in India, that's very, very key. Very happy to be here on this panel.
Hi, I'm Jussara. I am also a fashion designer, and I guess what distinguishes me from so many fashion designers is that I am plastic-free and zero waste. So I'm here to talk a little bit about my journey.
Thank you so much, and thanks for those introductions. As you can see, we have a very dynamic group with us today. And the good thing is we're having this conversation in this room. And the reason I say that is because this room is the room we should have more of these conversations in. We're often in museums, we're often in art facilities, we are often at events like the ones we hosted earlier this week and last week during Fashion Week, having these conversations. But we need all global stakeholders together to really reimagine our Earth and to really do so from a design thinking perspective and from a system thinking perspective. So I'm so glad to see the diversity in the room. I am so honored by what Stuti's built, and to really get through this conversation today with you all, having some engagement into our talk and helping us rebuild and reimagine our Earth. Now today we're going to talk to these very lovely panelists about art, design, their experiences as comedians, storytellers, and also our built environment and how all these interoperable sectors lead us back to this one place of how we all can be global stakeholders to reimagine our Earth, but to also think about how we transform culture. So when we talk about sustainability and circularity, we are really having a conversation about culture. And until we understand that, and we have more of these conversations with rooms in rooms like this, we're going to always be stuck. And so I'm really excited today to start us off for Creston for our audience. What is culture? And I need 3 answers before we can go into our questions for our panels.
Experience.
Culture is experience. Okay, perfect. I love that answer. Who else?
Heritage.
One more time, heritage. Love it. Yes, culture, experience, heritage, and a 3rd answer from this side of the room.
Values.
Values. Okay, so our value system, our experiences, our lived experiences, right? And our lineage, our heritage. So what I just heard was intergenerational sustainability. That is what we're aiming for. The ability to pass down from one generation to the next what we've experienced through our lived experiences, and then to also have that turn into a foundational value system, right? So our panelists are gonna help us today understand what this means. And I'm gonna start today with our storyteller, our comedian, Aishwarya. And I'm gonna ask you a question you've done so many remarkable things, from working as an editor, to working in food and beverage industry, to working in hospitality, and so many things that you've experienced, and also your work in wellness, and thinking through how we can cultivate sustainability in our life, and have social sustainability, beyond just having sustainability in the way we live, but having sustainability in how we live, right? And so I wanna ask you, with that, what do you think we can do to combine hospitality, wellness, what we consume, how we, even through our food and our diet, into a more sustainable living ecosystem?
Thanks, Ambriel,
You're
and
welcome.
thanks, Stuti, for having us. It's such a beautiful panel. I'm really honored to be here. When I think of sustainability, I don't necessarily only think of the model of recyclable products, and I think more a holistic approach, and I think of the self. And for me, looking at my journey in my career, I have done a lot of very diverse things, but what it connects all back to is my ability to create more alignment with myself. And therefore, sobriety for me and recovery was the real game changer in my journey to be more aligned with meaning in life, and have more impact as a person, driven with purpose, not just profit. And I think when you equate wellness and you equate hospitality, I think the connecting factor is how creativity and art can really transform your inner turmoil that comes into more of a power of transformation to be more sustainable as a culture, to be more feeling in the moment rather than escaping in your delusions. And I think that being present now and embodying the present moment is really how you do that, if that answers your question.
Great answer, and thank you so much. And I agree with you. I think how we get from one moment to the next moment is really something that's connected to our environment. So it brings me also to ask Kanhai, and I think Aishwarya, what you did beautifully is help us understand how wellness is connected to every single aspect of our life. It's not just one element, right? It's the connection that we have to look through. And I think that looking through that lens, we have to understand that how our environment impacts our wellness, and how, through living sustainably, we can also have a more sustainable future for everything around us. And so what I want to ask you, Kanhai, is when you think about design principles in urban development, how do we integrate sustainable design principles into infrastructure to have a more sustainable and circular infrastructure going forward as we move through and think about circularity as a concept that we want to be more human-centered? So I'll let you answer that.
To start with, I will thank Stuti and the team of Jain. And I'm a practicing architect since mid-90s, but I will go back because I'm a 70s kid. And when you were in the 70s in India and Mumbai, you saw a very different environment. And as we grew from the 70s to the 80s and till the early 90s when there was a globalization across India, we saw things going very fast. And the first time I saw a computer was in the late 90s. So you can imagine how things were then. And since then it's growing faster and faster. The aspiration of people are growing also very fast, and there's been a growth which has been controlled by the government rules and regulation to ensure that everything is in order and doesn't go out of order. But suddenly we all felt a big jolt, I think if I'm going with the question, but was during COVID. So when COVID happened in just 5 years back, I think it took a lot of impacts to all the clientele that we deal with, and their outlook towards the entire development changed after that. But earlier it was quite haphazard in a way across the globe, but after COVID, people have started realizing that how architecture, the built form, is so important with respect to how you build it with respect to every context. We're doing projects, for example, we're doing hospitality in Kashmir, in Rajasthan, like how we have to nowadays build everything with respect to your weather conditions, and we just don't cut copy paste. And that has actually influenced a lot of practices across India itself when they actually building now. One very a different example would be changing lifestyles, which is actually helping the entire thing. Because now the number of, I would say, millionaires and billionaires increasing in India is almost a big number. And if you look at it, we are trying to redefine luxury, which is something to do with sustainability. Because it's no longer like, oh, I have to build something which looks very nice with just marble or leather or materials which define luxury. But now luxury is more defined with wellness. So we did this project in a place called Goa in the western coast of India, where we redefined luxury with the use of different methods for wellness. Like we have the cold plungers, we have the sensory deprivation tanks, and stuff that are really important for the well-being of a person.
Love that answer, Kanhai. And I think what we just did was we connected wellness to our built environment, to the environment around us. And COVID made us do it if we wanted to or not. It made us rethink our physical and our emotional wellness. And that also made us rethink our living spaces and what we were going to do each day when we moved through our day, which brings me to Payal, who has spent a lot of time and has a lineage of built environment cultural shifters. And also, she's a great artist and also designer as well, fashion designer. So when we think about our spaces, Payal, and we think about our living spaces, and we think about art, and we combine it with design, and we want to create impact even in the spaces that we live, right? In the spaces that we enter, such as office buildings and corporations. And as we're thinking through that, how can we also think through it in a sustainable way to make sure that that art and design concept is following some sustainability principles?
Thank you, Ambriel, and thank you, Stuti, for this panel. Very happy to be here.
Thank you.
I'll take a minute to kind of connect the dots between what Aishwarya and Kanhai said. And I come, as you said, with a background of sustainability. My father started the green building movement in India some 30, 40 years ago. So sustainability is part of my DNA. Literally, it's not something I'm thinking about today. It's something I've thought about for the last 30 years. But to simply talk about it or think about it is not enough, and that's what you see in the design world, in the fashion world. Everybody's talking about the importance of sustainability, but people are not really taking it into action. So I think in fashion, we are one of the largest polluters on the planet as far as carbon emissions is concerned, landfills is concerned. So I think luxury and fashion and art really needs to be more mindful, more purposeful. You create less, you create as much as is required. Overconsumption is something of the past. I don't think we have the luxury for that anymore. Even art is becoming much more meaningful, and so is fashion. So I think luxury in fashion would mean less, would mean renewable materials, would mean more circular textiles, would mean processes which consume less power, less energy, put out less waste into the environment. And really design has to be from start to finish sustainable. From the minute you start creating, you have to think that this is going to be something which has a long lifespan. This isn't going to be something which is fast fashion, or where today I throw it in the garbage, it ends up in a landfill. No, I want to create something which my generation will wear, maybe they will pass to the next generation. That's what, to me, is luxury. That's good design. Where you're also thinking of communities, at least in India, I create my own fabrics from scratch. I work with clusters which do embroideries, kind of like what I'm doing. Now, this is not something which is fast fashion. It takes 6 months to make it. And I'm hoping that whoever buys it will pass it to the next generation. So it really is about more meaning, more purpose. And once you've created it, it should be possible to recycle, resize, refit, and reuse. And basically, it should not end up in a landfill. I don't know if I answered that question.
You did, you absolutely did. The whole idea of rethinking status, rethinking labels, and as we rethink status and we rethink labels, then luxury transforms. So we move through a new lens of how we view luxury, and maybe luxury is passing down things that we love to the next generation, things that have a story to the next generation. So I really, really love that answer, Payal. And you're right. I mean, overconsumption, overproduction are huge issues, and they're very difficult issues to transform because we go back to where we started because of culture. So we're talking about transforming culture, and Jussara, one of the things that you've done, which I think is just remarkable, is you built your brand around zero waste and zero plastic. So which helps us with food security, it helps us with built environment, it helps us with our health, our wellness, and it makes us understand the need for less, we'll say underconsumption, and how we can do it, and you've been able to successfully do it. So why don't you help us and walk us through that inspiration for yourself.
Sure, thank you so much for everyone for being here. So again, my name is Jussara Lee, and I am a zero-waste, plastic-free fashion designer. Turned activist. I mean, you'll see, oh, maybe my sneakers have some plastic or my phone has some plastic, but you know what I mean. So you couldn't guess by looking at me, but I was born and raised in Brazil. Growing up in a tropical country surrounded by beautiful beaches, rivers, wonderful mountains, taught me to respect and appreciate the natural world. I credit those fondest memories of my youth year spending on the beach with my teeny-weeny bikini for making sustainability a central issue in my career. When I moved to New York in 1987 to study fashion, my mom was very worried about me becoming a beach bum. So I came to the States, and I actually was able to build a successful fashion career in fashion. I was in my 30s when I went into this introspective time where I look back and look at how much precious time I had squandered worrying about cosmetics. And by cosmetics, I mean my looks, my earnings, my collections, my projects, my vision. And that set me on a destructive path, actually. And besides, so much of it was to feed an insatiable ego that left me feeling somewhat empty, and no matter how much I tried to satisfy it. And then on top of that, I think it was 1990 something, I watched this documentary called The True Cost that revealed the true hidden facts about the fashion industry, my own industry. And I realized that I was part of what was causing the destruction of our planet. So I made a paradigm shift in the way I led my personal and professional life into this new path of reconstructing my life. I must confess I still have some very selfish reasons. I want to breathe fresh air. I want to drink good water, clean water. I want to eat wholesome food, free of toxic chemicals. So I'm still selfish. And wear nice clothes, I suppose. And yeah, so that's what I do.
Thank you so much, Jussara, for that question. And I think we have one last question I want to ask everyone before we need to wrap. And it's an important question. We're talking about personal choices and lifestyle changes that have helped us all think about sustainability differently and also reimagine the earth through our own lens and our respective fields. Now, what my question is for you is, through that lens, what do you think needs to happen so that we have more engagement and more people thinking about underconsumption and ways to improve the ecosystem so that we have protection of our biodiversity and so that we can move forward in a more human-centered transformation cycle as opposed to this very based linear cycle that we're currently experiencing? And I'm going to start off by Aishwarya letting you answer that question.
Thanks. I feel that our connection with the land and people needs to be really fortified. You know, communication should be fortified. Our vulnerability should be fortified. And I think art and creativity give you that platform to be able to do that. I think cultivating more gratitude for what we have rather than what we want is really the foreseeable future for me, at least. And I think also having presence really matters in being here and now rather than being more either in the past or the future. Being just really holistic in our choices. And you know, I think we discussed this, that people are the soul force of this planet, of life, and we are here to leave legacies of light away from things that, you know, and that is really being highlighted, I think, in this day and age. So.
Okay, let's keep going, and thank you for that answer as well. 60 seconds or less, go for it.
I think for me, in design and in art, I think it's about empowering the next generation of designers, of artists who are still going to go out there and create things. And so personally, I feel it is now my duty to do that, and I have a foundation which does that. So if the next generation of architects, designers, engineers think more sustainable in terms of their practice from day one, 10 years down the line, I think we'll just be much better.
I love that. Young, sustainably minded innovators. And let's go, Kanhai.
So what I would do, like apart from the build form, we even do a lot of upcycled art. There I actually we have collaborated with a German fashion designer, and where we are upcycling art from fashion waste from across Europe. And what we're doing is we're connecting it with human emotions so that every person can connect with it. And we are using this medium as sort of a exposure and an education system where we can actually teach the younger generation and even collaborate with us, where we can actually create a lot of more upcycled art as a medium to say that, you know, how we can be more sustainable.
Love it, Kanhai. Reuse, repurpose, culture by design. Love the principle. Let's go for it.
Okay, I might be a little radical, but I believe in grassroots efforts. I think that personal action does actually add up to systemic change, and that's the reason I go around giving lectures, because I think every single person in this room has that power. So, for example, a lot of people don't know that where you bank plays a huge role on the growth of the fossil fuel industry. So, $1,000 in deposit would be equal to a flight from New York to Seattle. $50,000 in the bank, in one of those big banks, is equivalent to a household of 6 months of fossil fuel usage. So all these things, you just need to dig out the information and just take action.
Love it, Jussara.